Hello, everybody. As Renee just so aptly said, today is the 18th of October. Not like her computer said, and it was New Year's Eve of, what, 2017? It is not 2017, although we would like to rewind back, some of us. Maybe we'd like to go back there, but that's not where we are. We are in the crazy, I don't know what, the word I have for it is not appropriate, but it's a crazy ride called 2020. We're going to say that instead. I had a not nice adult thing to say there. Anyway, that's where we are. And at least we're all together in it. Right? Something like that. So we missed last week because I was busy celebrating my little kitties, one early and one exactly on their birthday. So thank goodness we did that, because the following day when we were supposed to have it was torrential downpour the whole day. So thank you, God, for the insight to change it. So that was fun, but I did miss you guys, and now we have to rewind a bit and talk about the homework that was not spoken about last week, which, let's see if you did it. So I'm going to hit you. I'm going to hit you. I will come through the screen and I'll hit you. Kristen, I forgot to give you your thing today. Oh, it's driving me nuts. Anyway, I already beat you once, and I had your herbal massage cream thing there for you, and you've got to be kidding me. All right. Anyway, side note. Sorry, guys. I cannot believe that you did not take that. Oh. Anyway, so we were talking about I statements, and I statements are one of these things where, you know, when you get a massage and it feels so good and blah, 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 and it goes on about their whole narrative, but your narrative might be different. Some people might get anxiety during a massage generally, or they might not like the pressure or whatever it is. So it's not basing your narrative on the assumption that everybody else has the same experience. And the reason we address I statements like that is because it can lead to a lot of trying to include things that are not inclusive, and then it switches how everybody's experience is. And some people don't have that big voice or voice enough to say, I don't have that experience, and that doesn't work for me, and it just changes things a lot. So there's plenty of reasons why we shouldn't do it. I don't even think I need to get into it too much, but let's just be aware of it. So part of the homework was to be aware of doing I statementing, as I would like to call it. Hello, Kenneth and Rob. Hello. So my Zoom people, were you aware in the 2-week span of any I statementing?
Oh yeah.
Kristen goes, yes. And Renee said, oh yeah, oh yeah. So did you catch yourself in the moment and change it? Or was it an afterthought? Basically, you were able to change it quickly?
No, I've been noticing it right away now these days.
Good. I appreciate that fully. Yeah. I did it today too, during a treatment actually, and it wasn't like a normal I statement where it would alienate somebody, but it was still like my assumption that other people would feel that same way. So it was kind of interesting for me to like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say that. No, let's readjust that. So that was kind of fun. Yeah, and obviously when I give an I statement example, I'm giving you really simple ones, but obviously there are way more complicated ones. Race, sexuality, all that stuff. And it's a lot of inclusivity things that are not necessarily everybody's experience. So, and I was thinking about that on my intake form because I had to redo it last night, and I was like, should I change something on this? I'm not quite sure. I might need to ask somebody else because I don't really know what to write. So anyway, hello, Vin. So I think that type of awareness is really, really helpful because we are in such a sensitive time for everything, because 2020 is the year of everything. It's not just one thing. No. You get more than you asked for, than you've ever asked for, and it's all coming at you. So I feel like Crazy Eddie took over 2020. Crazy Eddie with some like... I don't care if I'm dating myself. I hope you know who Crazy Eddie is. If you don't, stop watching this right now and go check him out. It's Crazy Eddie! Yeah, that's in the deep recesses of my mind as a child, Crazy Eddie. Jeannie's laughing at me. Thanks, Jeannie. Yes, you should laugh at me. Remember Crazy Eddie? He was crazy, but I'm pretty sure he took over with, like, maybe not Ozzy Osbourne's best time in his life, like when he was biting the bat's head off, and they've combined forces to make 2020 one hell of a ride. That's just my thought. There's probably a few others that we could add in there, and maybe some sadistic laughter, and who knows, but that's what's happening. But of course, there's the happy stuff in between, right? Which we're working so hard on. That's an I statement, see it? We're working, so I'm assuming you're all working hard on it. Some people are not. Yeah, some people are. That's okay. I'm working hard on it. You're not. So I asked a client today, you're like, let's be honest here, I am not working hard on it. I asked a client today who is a very, very busy acupuncturist, and her business has been greatly affected by the pandemic and when people are scheduling, and we were kind of discussing that together and how it's just more all over the place and kind of hard to navigate. And I asked her the simple question that I ask everybody, because this always leads to a happiness question of, so what are you doing for fun? And she was just like, nothing. I am not doing anything, anything for fun. I was like, oh boy. But she did say that she was happy. So I found that fascinating. And I had to ask, well, what's making you feel so happy? She's like, I'm just content. I like being alone. I like having my time to myself. I like reading. I like seeing my parents. So she had all these simple happinesses that were not necessarily fun oriented, but she was fine with it. So, hello, Carrie. You surprised me. So I thought that was interesting. So we're going to get circled back into a little bit of the spiritual ego versus the soul. And if you saw 2 weeks ago, the homework, I had found a nice image of ego versus soul. And if you have a moment, you should check that out, because I think it's very helpful to see the visual, how ego is very me-oriented and it keeps you in all these locked up places. And then soul is very, very open and refers to the we. Laura, you love my hair. It's just a little bun, a little half bun. So, and then one of my friends pointed out that it was interesting that I was putting I statements in and then talking about me versus we. And you would think that the I statement would be directing us to more of an ego place, but it's really directing us more to a soul place, which is kind of interesting, because the ego place is very me-oriented. But that's not why I was talking about the I statements. The I statements are to help us identify that we all don't have the same narratives. And by doing that, we can come into a better community, into a more compassionate community. Which leads me to our first way of coming to be more into the soul aspect. So I'm not going to go into all the like the Vedic texts about how to get into freeing the soul, but I'm going to give you more of a glossed over version of that in the sense. So the first and the second go together, and that would be act with kindness and cultivate compassion. They sound very simplistic, and they sound probably like you've heard this a million times. Doesn't matter. We're going to go over it because it's really worth kind of exploring together. So what does it mean to act with kindness? I know that's an open question, but anybody, give me something that's acting with kindness. Oh, wait, right here. You guys are on the spot because you're live, so what's up? How do you act with kindness? Go ahead.
Renee, what do you have?
What you got, yo? What you got? You made a hand signal. I don't know what that means. East side, west side?
No.
You're on the
Thanks,
spot.
Kristen.
Hey, Katie.
Listening to someone? Is that what you mean?
Acting with kindness, that could be listening to somebody, sure, and that goes with compassion too, right?
Non-judgmental.
Yeah, right. Non-judgmental, that's a key word there for sure. And it's a lot about the positivity and the light in the kindness, right? So you hear a lot of pay it forward, or, whatever. It could be something as buying somebody else some coffee, but really it's about where this inspiration comes from and why you're doing it and part of that motivation. So we did kind of gloss over how that you could be a little negative when you do a good deed, right? You could be like, oh, I have to tell everybody about what I did today, blah, blah, blah. And it could be all about, kind of how you feel instead of how you make them feel. So it's kind of interesting. But when you act with kindness, it's really coming from this place of light. And for some people, it comes supernatural, like super, supernatural, where that's what they want to do all the time. It's something so second nature where you're passing by somebody, you smile at them, and do you always get a smile back? No, right? Do you always get a how are you back? Do you always get eye contact back? No. Do you always get a please and thank you back? Nope. And yet you still do it. And why do you do that? And Jordan says checking in on somebody. That's perfect. You do this, there's a motivation behind it. There's a motivation not just because it feels good for you, but you know that that's a little bit of an inspiration to somebody else. And maybe the third person that you say that big smile and that hi to, it really can make you feel vulnerable, will give you that lightened up response. Maybe they are having a great day, or maybe they're having a bad start to the day, and you just doing that might not have given them the glowing reaction that you wanted, but it might have sparked something in them to feel a little lighter, like, oh, somebody saw me today. Somebody recognized, my face. Somebody gave me that love that I'm not feeling all the time. And that little action is the kindness. Remember a long time ago I said kind has I and in it, like I'm in. You have to be really in it, really allowing yourself sometimes to feel a little vulnerable to continue to do something like that. Jordan says good morning to many of the people he passes on his bike rides and with the cycling groups, and especially the kids. Yeah. And you don't know what's going to happen after that. And that's part of what kindness is. Like, you don't actually know if you're going to get something back right away, or see something happen right away, or if they're just going to go, and pass through their day, and be unaffected, or if they're actually going to really think about that, and spark something else for them. So kindness is a bit of a toss-up. And I think that's an interesting psychological evaluation. If you think about it, you don't necessarily know what's going to happen after that. And yet many of us choose to continue on, to keep going with it. But can you think of a day or a time when it was really, really difficult for you to do something that was kind that day? I can tell you right away that if I'm feeling really, really down, it's going to take a lot more effort for me to give even somebody a simple smile or make eye contact, right? Because I'm really the one at that point that is feeling so low, and my light is feeling really, really dim. So somebody like me, who would you normally think would have it an easier way of doing that, I'm starting to retreat. It's harder for me to do, and I'm the one that needs that spark. So that's why it's really, really important to continue to push, even when you feel that down, to find some way of being kind. So for me, if that day happens, when that happens, I shouldn't say if, when that happens, how do you be kind to yourself, right? And this goes back to the mind mapping. I believe the homework was soul-based, right? So it was a soul mind mapping. Now I can't think of it. Soul shining, I think I put in the center of it.
Soul fulfilling.
Soul fulfilling. Carrie, good job. Thank you. So that last mind map, the center was supposed to be soul fulfilling. And then you have your little branches and your twigs off of that. And if you haven't done that, guess what you should do tonight? Because it's going to show you what is doing well and thriving in your life and what needs some love. So when you're at that point that you're having a difficult time being that shining light, how do you be kind to yourself? We spoke 3 weeks ago about parts of self-care, which we're always going to go back to. But how do you do it, particularly on that day? So start thinking about that. How do you be in a deep emotion, a very intense emotion, and give yourself that space? What kind of kindness can you give to yourself? sing it out. You guys think. I'm going to read what Katie said. When my son had an extremely hard time and it took a lot of me, and just to know anyone is there does make me feel better. But I might not show it. Yeah, and that's exactly what I was saying before. Perfect. Just that, yeah, you might not be able to show that I'm having a hard time with my son. I do appreciate your offer. I do appreciate you, offering to lend a hand, or just saying, yes, I understand that what's happening. And you might not be able to show that big emotion at that time, but I'm glad that you know that it feels better. So that's great. Ladies, what do you do when you're having that hard time shining that day? How do you be kind to yourself? Kristen, she's calling you out now.
I knew that payback was coming.
Payback, baby. We're nice, but we're going to call you out.
So I have this list I keep of things that I've done in a day that are like wins. I started it after Ian died.
Oh,
and when
yeah.
I'm having a really shitty day, I open it up and I look at it. At all the things that I've managed to accomplish. And it could be as stupid as I got up that day. But I look at it and I add to it when I do something, like now the things I add to it are actual like big things. But for a while they were very small.
For a while it was opening my eyes. So it's fine.
Right,
yeah.
I got out of bed. I actually went to work on time. I cooked a meal in my own home. But, look at that list when I need to show myself kindness to see that, sometimes when the going gets tough, you still can celebrate little tiny things that you don't think are a big deal on a regular day. But they are a big deal when it's not a regular day.
So remember the Soup for the Soul books and all that stuff or whatever? I mean, I haven't read those in years, but I do. But yeah, I forgot about them too until you just started speaking, because I remember, about sweating the small stuff and all that stuff. But that goes into that too, like, don't sweat the small stuff, but, celebrate the big things, right? Celebrate the small things. It's the same thing. And really, it should be almost equal emotions in a sense. They're all relative. So if you're having a really difficult time and you get out of bed, that's the same shit as doing a big goal that you've been waiting for 5 years. If you're in a down dump and you get yourself out of bed and you make yourself breakfast, my God, there should be like huzzahs all over the world happening. So, but it's true, because they're relative. It's all about where you are, what you're trying to dig yourself out of, and creating something further than that. And I like really what you're talking about, Kristen. You have a cumulative win letter, which is great. So it's not just like, oh, these are my wins for the day. Like, you really are taking the full scope of, no, this happened years ago after since my husband passed. I don't just have the wins for the day. I have a culmination of wins. And some of them are really small and some of them are much bigger. I really like that.
And I forget to do them now because
you don't need it as much.
Need to
right.
Much. But I will say that we did a thing at my old job, life coaching thing at my old job, and Kathleen Seeley is Jack Canfield's business partner.
Oh, Jack Canfield, yeah.
And I did all this work with Kathleen, who's actually a friend of mine now, and so I learned a lot in that, like, 2 years after Ian died from her. And then she came back 2 years after that.
Yeah.
And she walked in and she didn't even recognize me. She's like,
aww,
when I met you, you looked 10 years older than you actually are, and now you look 10 years younger.
I think that's really,
I don't understand that really.
You don't understand, well, because when you have grief of any type, when you have any major emotion, basically, other than like the really, really happy ones, of course, you wear it, and some people may not show it right away, but ultimately you're wearing it, which is why when, like, for example, today, I was having a really hard time. When was it? Was it last week or the week before? I don't even know now, but, very difficult time. One day was really bad. And, and I had to make myself like laugh later on because I had small wins like listed. I was like, all right, I did that. And then somebody the next day was like, you look beautiful. And I'm like, I look beautiful. Like, you're out of your mind, first of all, because I can see I'm wearing it, you know, I'm wearing it. And sometimes it's better than others, but I'm wearing it. So I'm just going to digress for a second onto that, because there was a day this week I had bad news from a dentist, and I was like really not expecting it. And it just devastated me, like slaughtered me right away. So much so that like poor Carrie, who I normally talk to every day, I was like, I can't talk to you right now. Like, I cannot talk. So, what was my point of this? Oh, that I had to allow myself to really be in that time of, you know what, I am not okay. I can't pretend I'm okay. And I don't want to talk about it. And I don't want to talk to anybody. And to just be with that, right? But what it did like I always say that everything, you know, it does happen for a reason. It sounds trite, but you don't always know in that second what's going on. Well, why is this happening? You don't always know in the next day. You don't even know sometimes in a year. You sometimes just don't know, and it's okay. Now this, if you don't know right away, is going to be the hardest time. If we don't know why things are happening, that's hard, right? Why is this happening? What's happening? I don't know. Sometimes you just have to have faith. You have to have faith that it's going to work out. And what's our saying? Let Jesus take the wheel. Let Jesus take the wheel, baby. So it makes Carrie laugh. It makes me laugh too. But it's difficult in those moments for some of us to really keep that type of faith when you're really feeling like questioning why. Well, for me, I didn't get it right in that second, but part of what I started to get the next day was it's symbolic of how my health hasn't been on the forefront. It hasn't. And I guess what disturbed me more is that I really have been feeling like I've been doing so much, like, and how can I make it more of the forefront? I have 2 little children. I have a husband. We have family members that are very sick right now. I'm not sure what more I can do to be in the forefront of my own life. And that's a strange thing to say. But it was a big and deep acknowledgement that it's the truth that I've known for a long time, but here we're coming to this culmination of like, Vanessa, you're not leading your health. You're not at the forefront of your own story. How do we change this? So I'm starting to have my own conversation like that, and I have to have it out loud, and I have to have it with a couple people when I'm ready, not on their timeline. It's on my timeline. Thank you. I don't know who you are. I'm going to mess up your name. I'm not going to say it. It starts with an L. But I would like to talk to you more. So it's an interesting thing to get to that point in your life where you can acknowledge all these things that are leading up and culminating into these bigger progressions. And here we are, and 2020 is coming up with this tsunami wave, and we're getting hit in all different directions, and we'll have this, I know, Lejla? Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. You're going to have to give me phonetics. And we're getting hit on all sides. And then we have our personal journeys with that, right? You still have your own story going on. That's where the I statements come into. So we have to find that kindness for others always. And I sometimes feel like that's easier to give to others and then harder to give to ourselves. And maybe I'm wrong, you tell me, but that's how I feel for myself. I have kindness to myself, but it's not the same kindness that I would give to somebody else, which is usually when I'll flip it and say to somebody, well, what if you were me and I was you? How would it feel? So if I was on the table telling you that I'm not at the forefront of my own health and my own life, blah, 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 what would you say? How would you say it? And even though I can do that a little bit to myself, so I'm going to have to start doing that. It's a lot of honesty and patience, because sometimes there really isn't a lot you can change around. If you have big things happening all around you, you can't focus on the little fires, right? You're focusing on the earthquake and the volcano and this is that, and so busy putting out all this other stuff. So sometimes it doesn't work out the way it should optimally work out. Patience with yourself, patience and kindness. So that's the big theme that I was hearing for myself. And Kristen, just to get back to you, I'm sure that she was seeing all the stress and the grief that had built up through Ian's sickness and then ultimately his passing. and then suddenly you had started to create wins, you know, and you had started to actually grieve him instead of grieving the process. I don't know who I'm hearing. I'm gonna have to mute.
You're hearing my Alexa.
Oh, your Alexa's talking? How nice. So this type of pressure that's going on, and maybe you saw my, the anxiety and panic and all that stuff, that imagery that I put up a few days ago about normal anxiety and stressors, and now we have all this extra stuff that's happening. That was the perfect imagery. I know I always think that like the divine points me to the perfect imagery when I really need it. That's what I've been saying all along, is that, you know, you may, like myself, I'm not really an anxious and depressed person, but I am prone to it. I know that underlies. You know how I know it underlies? Because in a place where I've been exposed to a ton of stress, it's the first thing that switches for me. And it doesn't necessarily happen right away. It usually happens after I've been helping everybody and haven't given myself or haven't had my enough alone time or discharge time. And then suddenly something just switches. And the first thing that happens to me is I don't want to live. The first thing that happens to me is, you know, suicidal ideation. And that's how I know that it's there. Otherwise, you would never feel my energy and go, oh, this is an anxious person. Oh, this person is depressed. That's not really in my major energy field. And I have a million tools to help me stay with that not there. But because we're handed right now, not handed, because it's all coming, and it's all coming really fast. And our coping mechanisms are off. Some of them, maybe I'll speak for myself again. Maybe for all of you, it's not. I don't think that's the truth. But I don't think we have as many of our tools the way we used to. I don't think that people that used to go to the gym or to kickboxing or to yoga or to whatever it was, I don't think we have the access the same way. I don't think that people that, you know, are used to going to work a certain way, are used to having school a certain way, or anything like that, it's not really the same, okay? And because of that, we know that change creates stress. Even if it's good, it's still stress. So yes, you're more vulnerable. But here's the good news. As I was saying, acting with kindness lends a vulnerability. And because it lends a vulnerability, also lends innocence. When you're a child, that innocence is innate. And as we learn how the world works, as we learn how we socialize with others, as we learn how, you know, things just change and then maybe there's trauma and there's maybe this, whatever. As all that stuff happens, the innocence, you know, we can say gets stripped away, but really what happens is there's a maturation, there's a change, there's stuff that happens. And it's normal. But over the years, people think it's age. It's not necessarily age, it's just exposure. And over the years, more exposure, we can lose that innocence. We can lose that place of, you know, pure love, that place of, you know, that's my first part of me is like this pure love. And that's innocence. That's that white. That's why we would say, you know, it's white, it's pure, it's God, it's divine. So when you lend that vulnerability of kindness, right? And even one of my friends said checking in on somebody, you know, sometimes somebody will check in on me and I can't get back to them for whatever reason. I'm too busy or I'm too upset. So there's a vulnerability to them too. They're willing to put their neck out for me just to check in. It doesn't feel like a big thing, but sometimes it's like, wow, I checked in on them and they didn't get back to me. I don't feel so great about that. Continue to do it. Continue to put yourself a little in a vulnerability space. You'll become more into the divine, more into the innocence, and more open to this love. And maybe you don't see it that day, but down the line at some point, you will get verification, validation that what you're doing is the path. It's not just your path, it's the path. And you'll know this by chills down your spine. You'll know this by dreams that you'll have. You'll know this by the feeling that comes into your body, into your heart, and tears that just come out of nowhere. You'll know this, and sometimes you'll get it from that person where they'll be like, you know, I never told you this, but thank you so much for X, Y, and Z. Thanks for checking in on me. Thanks for bringing me soup. Whatever it was, you might not get it then, but please continue to be in, all in. And boy, it's 9:35. It's time to relax. So let's put on the relaxing voice. So letting your mind quiet down, and I'll slow my voice down. Finding yourself in a soft position. Dimming the lights. So wherever you're at, remember, you're doing a great job. And with that, start to deepen the breath. Every week we're using the same music that my husband created to condition your body, knowing that when you hear this sound, you start to relax. And we'll switch it up at some point, but this is where we are right now. Feeling into each chord change, the whole progression of all the chakras. So we've begun working on actual energy manipulation, and I want to not just continue with that, but I want you to start to play with it more and more. Actually feeling the tactile part of energy, it's a gift. It's a real gift to feel it. All the textures, the temperatures, the visions that might come with it, all of that is a pure contact with the soul, and the divine gift that the soul gives. It's as if you're touching divine fuzz. And it might feel a little fuzzy sometimes too. So playing with this and remembering that there's absolutely no judgment. The only judgment that's ever going to come is going to come from you, because this is all just play, exploration, finding that innocence that we're born with, that we're given, that divine connection. So as you lie down, you can always start to work with your hands. And tonight for me, I'm feeling called to do an expansion in my chest. So I'm going to start from the midline of my body, and I'm giving you some freedom tonight with your hands too, so you start where you want to. Midline of my body, and I'm going to just slowly pulse back and forth. You'll start to circle the hands around and feel a bit of that warmth cultivating. Do a full body scan, making sure you're letting the whole chest and abdomen be free. Notice the beauty. There is such a quiet beauty that comes from this loving, this exploration of the energy. It really does come right up to meet your hands At times it will go right over your hands and create a different wave. And the more we work on noticing these differences, noticing how the subtle body wants nothing more than for us to feel calm, to be at peace. It wants nothing more than for your soul to be the shining light that it's meant to be. And as the music starts to shift, I want you to shift now more into the head. So in your mind's eye, I want you to see a nice big whiteboard. And you'll wave your dominant hand in front of it and clear the whole board. You have to get every piece of it, so make sure you get up on a stool or fly up and wipe down that board really easily. However you want to do it. You can use your arm, you can use cloth, just clear it off. And once that's clear, you're going to take a sip of water in your meditation. So come back down to the ground and find your cup and feel all that water go down your throat, nice and quick. Feel that coolness and how it really anchors the body back down. So when you're able to drink like that, you can really feel how it brings your energy down to the ground. And on this whiteboard, all you're going to do is take one marker, whatever color, and you're going to write the word kind. You're going to write your name underneath it. You're going to make a big circle around the two words. And then you're going to write 5 words that you associate with that. Kind and your name. They don't have to make sense by any means. They don't have to be something that you'll do or someone does for you. Just a free thought of 5 words. Your name and kind. Could be how it makes you feel. It doesn't matter. Just free associate. So if nobody's told you today, you are loved. And if you haven't told yourself that today, Say it now. And if you haven't told your divine presence today, you tell them now, I love you. And now you're going to bring attention back into your body. And behind this whiteboard, you're just going to easily push it away as if it's on a roller. And you'll see green grass, just like magic. I think we deserve some of that in our world. And you're barefoot, and you get to feel all that tickling grass underneath your feet. A little crispness, a little dampness, a little sinking into the hard edges. And a very, very, very beautiful clear sky. It's a wide open feeling. I usually feel this when I'm in big space. The deepest breath you can take of the day comes here in this wide place. Notice that the arms want to expand. They want to open the chest. Feel the expansion of the fingertips as they open wide across. Feel how the legs are willing to make a larger, longer stance, opening everything. Now the weight of the body starts to shift. The energy starts to float up and carry you forward. You start to hover a bit off the ground, feeling that weightlessness. Tonight's sky by me on the drive home was like big, big clouds in the front, and in the back it looked like heaven. It was really clear, really vibrant colors, more striations. It looked like multiple levels in the sky. And now that you're weightless and free of the body's feelings like that heaviness, now that you're able to float off the ground with ease, I want you to fly right up into that large sky and go through all of the clouds. And in this version of our meditation, the clouds have feelings. They're more than just air and water. Let them be puffy. Let them be soft. Let them be cool and warm. Fly fast, fly slow. Circle about. Biggest focus is on elongating your breath as you do it. So really, really fly. Let it take you higher and higher. Remembering the entire time how completely safe you are, how completely loved you are, and how completely free your soul is. And you're welcome at any time to stop on a cloud, to shape a cloud, to lay on one. So notice in your meditation if you've released your body completely, or if you still have a light vision of it. Are you just this flight of energy or of sensation, or are you still in your body? Wherever your mind is taking you, wherever your sensations are going, feel the allowance of it. There is no need for directing at this moment. Allowing that gentle exploration to merely be supported by the breath. And now you can invite more energies with you. So you don't even have to know them or who they are. Just allow a gathering of souls to happen. Allow colors to come together. That's all the energies. Invite your guides and guardians, your angels, your friends, living or past. Let there be no boundary. And let the sky be lit up by your communion here. Taking in the divine, seeing how there is not one end, one beginning, how all of you are equal. Take a few more breaths all together, feeling how all the energies have this soft pulse. And as you very, very softly come back into your human form, notice how some of that color of the others come back with you. And you're going to allow this to happen, remembering that it's the connectedness that makes us feel whole. So you're going to allow and invite the others to come with you, to connect, to make your human body the best home possible. Maybe there's something to this. Maybe the way our chakras are in ordered colors, maybe it really is bits and pieces of the universe and the divine that make us so colorful and so whole. So when we get out of the body, allow it to free itself back up. We make that space clear again. And then we can come home. So later, when you look in the mirror before bedtime, I want you to say your name and say more than I love you. Say, I will do the best for you. I see the parts that aren't working, and I promise to help you. And say your name again. Because if it were somebody else, you would say that to them. I see this, and maybe we can try this, and maybe we can do this, and keep helping them adjust and support them. And it's time to really find that kindness for yourself. Say your name. Say, I will help you. And then when we continue on to deepening that into compassion, more sense. So for tonight, we're ending with that softness of the whole community together, your personal community. And maybe you didn't recognize all the others that joined. In fact, I hope you didn't. I want you to relish in every moment of peace. I want you to relish in every moment that is calm, every moment that has happiness. And when the other stuff happens, I want you to remember that that's not all there is. So share all of your wins, write them all down, whether they're tiny, whether they're big. Just keep sharing. And I'll, of course, write down the homework. I'll even do it tonight. So check back. Vanessa M, Meyer LLC. Same on Instagram. Share with your friends, because this is a big community that's going to keep growing, and it's going to grow because it needs to. We all love you. I love you even if I haven't met you. I love you because you're part of my divine, and I'm part of yours. And that's namaste. So take it easy tonight. Rest, drink water, take an Epsom salt bath if you can. Have some tea, whatever's cozy for you. Wear a scarf. And I'll see you most likely next week, unless something else happens. But I'll pop on for another video and just do our follow-up community check-in. Everybody else, have a great night.